Finance Administration Committee and a special meeting of the Board of Directors. Basin Water District. So with that, let's please determine if we have a quorum. EJ Caldwell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Director Tommy Favai. Here. Chairman Scott Houston.
Here.
Director Desi Alvarez. Director Don Deere.
Here.
Director Gloria Gray. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let's see, now is the time for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This meeting is being held both in person and virtually. We have received a previous emailed written public comment that we will read into the record. We also have a member of the public joining us online that will be calling on second. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to the board secretary for 3 minutes to read the submitted comment by Donnie Smith.
Yes. Board members, district staff, thank you for the opportunity to submit a public comment. As a constituent and ratepayer of this district, I have several concerns I would like the board to address. Regarding budget transparency and financial forecasting, I am concerned about the lack of analytical depth available to the public regarding the district's budgeting process. It is difficult to understand how budget figures are derived, and there is currently no accessible way to explore the details behind the line items. Many cities and special districts now offer interactive budget portals on their websites that allow residents to drill down into financial data. I urge this district to adopt a similar tool. Transparency builds public trust, and constituents deserve to understand where their rate dollars are going. I also ask that the district provide forward-looking financial forecasts so the public can better evaluate long-term planning decisions. Regarding the Buy America policy, I understand the board has directed staff to implement a Buy America policy that is reportedly stricter than the existing federal standard. While I appreciate the intent to support domestic manufacturing, I have serious concerns about this approach. First, American-made products frequently carry a higher price tag, and those costs will ultimately be passed on to ratepayers. Second, country of origin does not automatically equal superior quality or best value. Procurement decisions should be based on performance, reliability, and cost effectiveness, not solely on where a product was made. Most importantly, this is a systemic issue that extends far beyond the jurisdiction of a local water district. I strongly urge the board to use its political standing to advocate directly with state and federal legislators to address domestic supply chain and manufacturing challenges at the appropriate level, rather than placing the financial burden on local ratepayers. A policy position and a legislative advocacy effort are not mutually exclusive, and the latter would have far greater impact. Regarding potential building relocation, I have concerns about the district's ongoing exploration of a potential office relocation. I would like to know the total amount spent to date, including staff time, consultant fees, and any studies commissioned on evaluating whether to move. Ratepayers deserve full accountability on those expenditures. Additionally, I do not support rate increases to fund a move into a more expensive or prestigious facility. Before pursuing a relocation, I would urge the board to consider an alternative, demolishing the existing building and constructing a new facility on the same site, built precisely to the district's operational needs. This approach could provide the benefit of a purpose-built space while avoiding the ongoing costs of leasing or purchasing a new property. Any decision regarding facilities should be driven strictly by operational necessity and demonstrated cost savings to ratepayers, not by a preference for upgraded office space. If a move or rebuild cannot demonstrate a clear financial benefit to constituents, it should not proceed. Thank you for your time and for considering these concerns. I look forward to hearing the board responses. Thank you.
You know where this person lives?
No, I have an email address to be able to reach out to him so I can get that information for you.
And Mr. Chairman, just so you know, similar to what we did last year, because last year we did have a member of the public comment and ask several questions, and myself, as well as our chief financial officer, we did meet with that individual. And so we'll be reaching out to this individual to see if we can address their questions and concerns, see if a meeting is possible to be scheduled. Yes, it's worth noting that Director Gloria Gray has joined us on the line.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Director Gray. You know
Thank
you're
you.
here. Let's see, are there others wishing to address the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do have one member of our online community. And if the board secretary could assist her as far as unmuting and getting ready.
Okay, next will be Ms. Jennifer Farr. If you can unmute yourself, and then I will begin your time.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, Chair Houston and the committee members. My name is Jennifer Farr, and I'm the proposed audit partner from Davis Farr related to item 5B on your agenda. I'm joining the meeting today to answer any questions you may have about our audit services proposal. I did want to point out that Davis Farr is a small business, and we are also a disadvantaged business entity as we are a women-owned business. Our office is located in Irvine, California, so we are just barely out of the local boundaries. However, I also wanted to point out that the supervisor and primary in charge of your audit lives in Lakewood, which is within the local business area boundaries. And I mostly wanted just to thank you for your time this morning and consideration of our audit proposal. And again, remind you, I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Farr. Let's see, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see a request for additional public comment.
Good. We will move on to presentations, which I see we have no presentation today. Okay.
That's correct.
Let's see then. Item 5A, approval of minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item will be presented by Desiree Quintero, our Manager of Administration and Board Secretary, and the item begins on packet page 4.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, members of the committee and board. The minutes for the West Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors meetings are an integral part of the public meeting process. Minutes provide a history of the actions taken at board meetings, which is informative not only for members of the public, but other stakeholders as well. Members for the April 2nd, 2026 special board meeting and the April 27th, 2026 regular board meeting have been attached for consideration and can be found beginning on packet page 6 and packet page 8 respectively. With that, I would like to read the recommendation that the board approve the April 2nd, 2026 special board meeting and April 27th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay, very good. Let's see, with that, any questions on the minutes? Director Panayo? Director Gear? No. Director Gray? I have no questions, but I think they're in order. I would move, I would recommend that they go forward for approval by the board.
Yes.
Concurred. All right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, next. Item 5B, as in boy, contract award for financial audit services. Jay, if you could please introduce that out.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item 5B is the contract award for financial audit services. You may recall that this item was brought to the committee and board of directors in February earlier this year. This is a continuation of this item. And for this presentation, we do have Wendy O'Kelly, our Chief Financial Officer. And this item begins on packet page 14.
Good afternoon, Chair Houston and directors. The item before you is following Government Code Section 53891, which requires that the state and local government agencies annually have their financial statements audited by an independent and also certified public accounting firm. And then those financial statements be filed with the state controller's office by January 31st of each year. So we did issue an RFP so we can comply with this process. And on, I believe it's package page 46. You will see a Our solicited proposals that we received were 8 that we received for this this RFP. And out of the 8 qualified firms, that we had 3 that did qualify under the Small Business Enterprise and Local Business Enterprise Program. So that's approximately 1/3 of our proposers qualified under the district program. And then on the next slide, or the next page, the evaluation criteria did focus in on the quality of the proposal, qualifications and experience from the firms, and then also the firm's key personnel and their qualifications. We also reviewed technical approach and methodology, cost proposal and references, and then again, that small business and local business enterprise. Each proposal was independently scored and ranked prior to the interview phase. And based on the consolidated scoring results, the top 5 firms did advance to an interview phase. And in the next slide, I'll show you what the results look like. So the evaluation and the interview results here. Advance mine. This slide does illustrate that the firms that qualified for SBE, LBE, you could see those in the blue section with to the far right of the graph. And then the scoring you'll see in the orange and gray for phase 1 and gray for phase 2. The 5 firms were interviewed by 3 internal panelists, and we also did utilize 1 external panelist for this phase 2. And the interviews gave the panelists an opportunity to further evaluate that audit methodology, communication style, staffing continuity, and understanding of the government auditing requirements as well. And then on the next slide, in the, well, although that we had several firms that did submit very strong proposals, Davis Farr did demonstrate a strong understanding of not only the district's operational environment, but their overall technical qualifications, their audit, and their government experience placed them as the highest ranked firm. And so with that, I'd like to read the recommendation to the board if there aren't any questions. And the recommendation is that the board authorizes the general manager to enter into a 5-year agreement with Davis Farr LLP for financial auditing services for fiscal years 2026 through 2030 for a total not to exceed contract amount of $295,230.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. First of all, I'll just ask if there's any questions about this item. Victor Pavai, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. And, you know, this is the second go around on the RFP, and I just wanted to, thank staff for, putting this back on the street, and then actually reviewing the certifications that are in place, like the local business and small business and stuff. And then I noticed this RFP go around was like the top 5 firms were kind of like almost in the same range on the scoring. Obviously Davis Farr, over exceeded the number, but just that the other 4 that kind of ranged in the 80s, the top 80s, and then including the certifications in there as well. I think, tells that gives the background on, how each firm, actually interviewed and how they qualified and were evaluated. So, and I noticed like a couple of the vendors were kind of high in their numbers when it comes to their numbers. But, I guess that's what you deal with when it goes back out to the street again for the second time around. So, let's see. Yeah, those are the only concerns and questions that I had.
Okay. Director Gray, any questions, comment?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I really have nothing much more to add, honestly. Thank you to staff for going through this process that the board decided to do. I think we also see we got a good group of folks who did apply. Most of the price points are comparable amongst themselves, except for one who looked like they did that great in the interview or what have you. So decisions made there. So that being said, I'm happy to support this moving forward. The recommendation of yes, full board, this committee, and our team for applying. As we go through those next steps, we can hopefully make a decision soon on this next week. That being said, Director Babai, do you concur we move this forward?
I wanted to make a comment because Ms.
Sure.
Farr mentioned that,
Uh-huh.
her firm is Women Business Enterprise. So, glad to hear, that she mentioned that as well. So I concur.
Excellent. So with that, this will move forward to the board at our meeting. Recommendation, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to item 5B, as we got contract award for investment management services. EJ.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this next item will also be presented by Wendy O'Kelly, our Chief Financial Officer, and the item begins on packet page 51.
Thank you, Jay. Afternoon again, Director, Chair Houston, directors. Again, we're coming to you with the contract award for investment management services. The term is up for our current firm, and so we did go out for RFP. In that RFP, we had a total of 7 bidders. 6 were responsive, 1 being non-responsive. In this particular proposal, there were none that qualified or were certified for small business or local business. We did 3 phases in this particular solicitation. In the first phase was based on 107 points. And again, that overall criteria was quality of proposal, qualifications and experience, qualifications of their key personnel, their technical approach and methodology, cost proposal references, and then also that SBE, LBE program. Then we moved 5 firms on, the top 5 scoring firms, into the interview phase. There were 4 panelists on this one, all internal panelists. And in that second phase, we did have 2 that came to the top, and that was our Chandler Asset Management. And they scored 96.59 in that phase, and Meter Public Funds, which scored 96.09. And as you can see, the 2 top firms are very, very close in their scoring. So we did speak as panelists and discuss about a third phase to help answer maybe some further questions that would talk about the practical application for either firm once they joined Westbank. And so we sent out, or we had staff send out a couple of questions via email to the 2 firms. They returned back with their answers, reviewed again by the same 4 panelists, and the scoring still was very tight. And what you'll see is overall 99.34 for Chandler Asset Management, and then 99.09 for Meter Public Funds. Thereafter, what we did discuss and looked at the cost proposal, and the way that the fee structure is with investment firms, it is based on a basis point for the assets under their management. So if we were to just use like 25, so just to tell you, per Chandler's basis points are 10 basis points for the first 25 million. Thereafter, the next 25 million are 8 basis points. And then when you look at Meter, for the first 50 million, they're at 8 basis points. So basically, there's a difference of 2 basis points in the first 25 million between the 2 firms. So Chandler did have the most points in the 3 phases overall. Their cost proposal is a little bit higher. If we gave them the exact same, which we would, assets under management, it's about a $5,000 difference. And you could see that in your committee packet. So what the recommendation, and if I can read the recommendation, is basically asking for further direction. to be provided. So I'll read the recommendation that the board authorizes the general manager to negotiate an 8 basis points fee with Chandler Asset Management for investment management services. If an agreement cannot be reached, staff further recommends approval of a professional service agreement with Meter Public Funds for investment management services at fee of 8 basis points. And primarily, that is because the two firms are very equal and the only really differentiator is the basis points.
All right, very good. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it is.
This one.
Hmm.
Let me ask a question. Chandler is our current firm though, correct?
That is correct.
They've been with us for how long now?
My history, I'd have to look at the official contract. I know they've been with us for about 5 years.
This is, this new contract would be for how?
We generally, I don't know that we put in the proposal, but these generally are for 5 years.
Okay. I think my recommendation would be we just send this to the full board to talk about it rather than the committee makes an opinion. That's just where I'm at with this. Sounds like they're both very good firms. You're just basically asking if we would give you authority to negotiate, see if Chandler would meet.
That is correct. And Mr. Chairman, I would just say, though this is the first under the investment management services, the board has given similar direction in other cases where, as our chief financial officer just mentioned, when you have two comparable firms that are fairly equal in every aspect, sometimes it just comes down to the cost and value provided to the district. In this case, there is the runner-up that's slightly less expensive. And so we're just seeking feedback.
On the other hand, I mean, points wise, they are neck and neck, I get it. Chandler did come out just a hair ahead, right? Financially, there's not a lot of difference here. How difficult is it to change over firms? If that's the direction that ended up happening.
In the interview phase, that was one of our concerns. And out of the 5 firms that we proposed, all 5 of them, Chandler obviously being one of them, the other 4, it did not seem like a difficult process. It is really just taking a hold of the assets and creating that bank or that funding place for the assets to be held, which each firm already has it in place. So it's really them doing the transfers between the 2 firms. But I believe in the proposal between Meter, it was going to be about a 30-day, 45-day process.
Well, let me open this up. So Director Kavai, go ahead.
Thank you, Director. I got a question for EJ. What is the 8 BPS fee, if you negotiate it, what does that mean?
Oh, defer to this chief
Yeah.
financial officer.
So the basis points are basically 0, about 1%. For each 1 basis point, it's about 1%. So it is the amount that they charge. So we have about $77 million, and you'll hear it later on. I think I have that number correct in our investment portfolio. There's an amount that is under cash, and there's an amount that's under investment. And that is the amount that the investment firm will, utilize for the trades and for just investing or creating our assets for investments, for our investment portfolio. So that number, for example, being 25 million, or even if you use 50 million, the way that Chandler is structured in their basis point is the first 25 million for them is based on a 10 basis point fee. So that is their fee structure. They will collect 10 basis points of that 25 million, whereas Meter is collecting 8 basis points of that 25 million. So it's a higher structure with Chandler versus Meter.
That's good. Director Deere, any questions? Director Gray? Let me ask one more question. I'm just trying to.
No question. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gray. You all have worked with Chandler for a number of years. Heard any issues or concerns with them, but how's the working relationship been?
I think the working relationship is fine. I don't have any experience with Chandler or Meter. I can say prior to this, the other firms that I use at different, other agencies were different. So the preference for me is really about if they are equivalent, why would the district want to pay more for the same services? If we do continue with Chandler, I have explained to staff that there would be an introductory meeting as if Chandler was new and really set in place what I would be looking for as a CFO and want to receive from them as service-wise outside of just the portfolio management, but that same conversation would be had with Meter as well. So really, we're reducing it down to mere pricing here.
And on that note, of course, you're newer here, so you kind of inherited Chandler.
Correct.
Pretty well. So thank you though for being very forthright about that too. But I just always like to have a feel of how staff is doing. I think that they've done a great job for us. I think that we're obviously talking about a very, very small amount of money here. But no matter how this turns out, figure out who will be the next folks representing us. So, but with that, I would recommend we just let it go to the full board for this discussion.
I agree.
Yeah, let all the directors weigh in. That would work, staff.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. We'll move into the information calendar, item 6A, our monthly financial reports.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item will be presented by Jose Flores, our senior accountant, and Stephanie Soto, our accountant one. The item begins on packet page 404.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, Chairman Houston and members of the committee and board. As mentioned, we will be going over the monthly financial reports. As required by West Basin's administrative code, staff is required to submit various financial reports to the board to keep them apprised of the financial condition and future needs of the district. With that, I will start with the monthly demands list on packet page 406. This is our monthly demands list for the period ending April 30th, 2026. The report ends on packet page 409. The total expenditures for the month is $16,982,118.76. This is slightly higher than last month as we've had 3 payrolls for the month of April. And we also had our monthly metropolitan bill, which was $10,805,738.53. And this would account for 64% of the total monthly expenditures. Please let me know if you have any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes.
No questions.
So we'll go on.
I can now pass it to Jose for the cash and investments report.
Good afternoon, members of the committee and board. I'll begin on packet page 411, and I'll be presenting our cash and investments report for the period ending April 2026. Our total market value for the month was 94.9 million. On the same page, you can see a pie chart that shows our portfolio diversity and the different investments that we carry. On the following page, page 412, you'll see our credit quality distribution graphs. As you can see, more than 60% of our securities are rated AAA. On the next page, this page represents our maturity distribution. You can see here that the majority of our investments are very liquid. And on the following page, you'll see security acquisitions and dispositions for the month of April. And then from packet pages 415 to 421, there's a detailed listing of all of our holdings. And then lastly, from pages 422 to 425, you'll see the glossary definitions of our investments. With that, this does conclude the cash and investments report. Does anybody on the committee and board have any questions?
Any questions? No. Director Gray, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If there are no questions, then we can move on to our monthly water sales report. For the And we can move on to packet page 426. For the month of April, potable water sales was 6,993 acre feet, which was 1,249 acre feet higher than budget and 175 acre feet higher than last year. On the bottom portion, the imported barrier was 205 acre feet for April, of which Dominguez was 170 and West Coast was 35. On the next page,
I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to just showcase that and highlight this slide. You can see the budgeted numbers there in the gray. And those are, what that's telling you is that that's on average kind of what we expect of potable water to be placed in the barrier. And though that looks like a very negative slide, it's important to note that that's a very, very positive thing. You can see there in July of last year where we were above budget and we're putting quite a bit of potable water into the barrier. And you can just see how far that's come down over and across the entire fiscal year. This is, one of those things that we've been pushing internally, and then also with our contract operators there at Edward C. Little. We are trying to maximize the use of recycled water at the barrier. We're trying to get to 100%. We're having conversations with LA County Public Works, as well as the Water Replenishment District, to see that number go down to 0 whenever we're able to produce that amount of water. And so to see these numbers, I'm very pleased with the entire team and the partnerships, again, with our operators, as well as the Water Replenishment District in LA County. So I just want to highlight that because this is trending very much in the right direction.
Very, very good. Any questions on that or water sales?
Sorry.
okay, no, thank you. All right, we can move on to the next page. We have our recycled water sales for the month at 3,165, which was 420 higher than budget and 883 higher than last year. The table below does show the breakdown of our recycled water. Barrier was 1,078, refineries were 1,744, and disinfected tertiary was 343. That does conclude our water sales for the month. Are there any questions?
Okay, hold on one sec. I want to look at this for a minute.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm about to jump out of my chair.
yeah, this one looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Recycled water production and sales has been up. What, 1, 2, 3, 4, the last 4 months or so. Definitely hitting above what we budgeted. Can you tell us more on that, UJ?
Yeah, I would just say that over this past a little over a year, I would say that our theme that we continue to talk about is budget rates production, and really trying to work to find where we're at Edward C. Little, how we can maximize production there, and how we can basically return to kind of the heyday of the Edward C. Little facility as far as our production and delivery. And we have been doing that. You can see that over the course of this year, there have been dips down, but part of that is working with the county when they had the barrier down. And of course, we have some concerns when we work with our refineries because we're a bit of reliant on their ability to take water. And so there's always these little different factors, but I'm very pleased with the direction we're headed. And I hope to work with our contract operators and our staff to maintain this effort and the progress.
You mentioned sometimes we are reliant upon the refineries as to how much water they can take. Not so much for us, but for public or whoever. Can you?
Yeah, they're obviously operating their system. So if there's a decrease in their demand or their need, we're not going to be able to deliver there. If the barrier goes down or if they have any issues there at the barrier, we're not able to deliver, even though we can produce. And that, I think, has been the most important aspect of the success that we've seen is our ability to produce. So if our customers can take, we can produce and we can deliver. And so you're seeing those numbers here.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Any questions on
No
this?
questions.
No. Director Deere? No. Director Gray, any questions?
No, thank you.
Very good. EJ, thank you and the staff. Everybody who makes that happen. Okay, go on.
With that, I'll hand this back over to Stephanie Soto for the Directors Conference and Travel Expense Report.
Thank you. Please turn to packet page 428. Here we have the Directors Conference and Travel Expense Report through April of 2026. Our annual budget is $75,000, which we have expensed $22,044, which leaves us with the remaining of $52,955 in our budget. On the next page, page 429, we have the Executive Management and Staff Travel Expense Report. We have an annual budget of $123,000, which we have expensed $101,269, leaving us with a balance of $21,730. Please let me know.
Any questions?
No questions.
Hearing none. I think that concludes that item, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's go on to 6B as in boy, the quarterly debt report. Is that where I'm at?
Yes, we are. And for this presentation, we have Wendy O'Kelly, our Chief Financial Officer. This item begins on packet page 430.
Thank you, EJ. So the debt report, the quarterly debt report does summarize the district's current outstanding debt balances and then also our annual debt service obligations. In this report, staff does continue to make all the scheduled principal and interest payments, and you can see that schedule on page 432. And these payments are made in time and in compliance with our debt-related requirements. And as of March 31, 2026, the outstanding principal is $182 million. And our total debt obligation payment for this fiscal year is $22 million approximately. And then on the next page, page 43, it is just a formality that we do this reporting. It is really for variable debts or variable swaps, which doesn't currently impact the district, but we just include this in here for posterity purposes. And that concludes the debt report.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. All right. I have none. Okay, thank you. So let's see, 6C is in cat, fiscal year 2025-26, Q3 financial results. Jay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item will be presented again by Wendy O'Kelly, our Chief Financial Officer. And the item begins on packet page 435.
If I can just turn your attention to page 437 of our actual financial results overview. You can see for the potable water sold for Q3, we are at 65,706 acre feet, which is 9% over budget. This actually equates to $29 million in net revenue, which is well over the annual budget. You can see that in the chart below. And then on page 438, dealing with our recycled revenue, this kind of goes back to what Chair Houston was saying about the good 4 months. We're looking at our revenues to expenses are favorable with a $3 million in net revenue between expenditures and revenue, which is quite different than we've seen in previous years, which was more of a negative number. And then also, when we look at the actual expenses and to the Q3 acre feet of water sales for recycled water sales, the average cost is $1,557. And this number does not include debt obligations at all. That is just operating cost. And then on page 439 for our financial results, it is our investment income, which at this time we did budget for 11 million or 1.1 million, excuse me, and the year-to-date actual is over by 354,000. And then in summary on page 440, the budget to actual by operations department overall. We are in the revenue category. We received about 80% of that budgeted revenue number, which is tracking basically a good trajectory for the year-end outcome. And then if you look at the expenses below, they're at 74% to budget, which also is good for being at that 3/4 mark of the year as well. And before the year end and the books close, we will come back in the next 3 months with that year end number. So you'll be able to see in that net non-operating revenue section, you can see that we did receive some of the standby money, and we'll be able to reflect the second disbursement for standby revenue.
Very good.
And then just 41 through 47, I'll just say in summary, they are the detailed pages for the previous page 440. So 440 is the rolled up number, and detailed by department, by budget category is 441 through 447, including capital improvement as well. And throughout those pages, you will see the range as far as a percent of budget used, anywhere from about 25% to 77%. So again, for the third quarter results, the departments are tracking along with the budget projections. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Of course. Any questions, Director Jeter? Director Gray?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's see, 6D as in dog, other post-employment benefits, OPEB biannual actuarial valuation report 2025.
It's quite a mouthful. Again, for the presentation, we have Wendy O'Kelly. This item begins on packet page 448.
For OPEB, other post-employment benefits valuation, this item to the benefits that are related to our OPEB fund, which is basically our lifetime, as we call it, lifetime medical, or medical that for eligible employees after retirement. So the actuarial valuation is required under GASB, which is the Government Accounting Standards Board. And by following those rules, we do an evaluation every 2 years. So the district, what we are doing is we're measuring long-term financial obligations and then the funding that is needed and associated with the retiree healthcare benefits that we provide. The report basically updates the district's financial projections. It recommends funding levels based on actuarial assumptions. And right now, if you look at the chart in the staff report, our funding is at 119%. So when you look at the OPEB expense, that number is negative 38,000, which basically means we are overfunded in our OPEB. A lot of this is based on the assumptions, whether people are retiring too fast, too slow, on the active side of employment or on the retired side of employment, and then the utilization of the retiree benefits all factor into the valuation and then determine how much the district is responsible for or should contribute into the program. And then that gives us our overall net funding. So I would say it sounds like we may have funded the trust too much, but really what we've done is we're doing a great job of funding. There are a lot of agencies that are not in this position. They're underfunded and having a different problem. So we will continue to monitor this fund and make sure that we are putting in the contributions as they are needed. So is it still part of the budget process? The answer is yes, we will still budget, because anytime that we receive one of these valuation reports, the number could change. And what we don't want to see is that 119% move in the other direction where we are underfunded. And because it is based on several assumptions, that could likely happen within 2 years' time. And if there aren't any other questions, that is my report for the OPEB.
Any questions?
No.
All right. No questions either, so thank you very much for that. Let's see, 6E is in Edward, Public Agency Retirement System PARS Biannual Actuarial Evaluation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item will be presented by Wendy O'Kelly, and it begins on packet page 510.
And
This is for the Public Agency Retirement System, otherwise known as PARS. And again, this is their biennial actuarial valuation report. And this one relates to the district's public agency retirement system for our eligible board members. And one of the primary impacts of this valuation is the adjustment to the Tier 3 participations contribution rate, which is on page 511. There is a chart there. Right at the bottom, you can see that in the previous biennial valuation, that was at 15.5%. That is the contribution rate of basically payroll for a board of directors, has now gone up to 19.75%. And again, it's based on the same type of assumptions, looking at different characteristics of the active versus the retirement, and then also who is retired, and then who is still active in the system with the potential to retire. This all contributes to that valuation and where we need to be, one, funded, and what our contribution is going to be for the year. So based on those numbers, the contribution did go up by a little bit over 5%. And I don't know if I mentioned the funding status, but this retirement plan is funded at 110.7%. So again, it's a good problem to have, and we'll continue to monitor and contribute to this fund as well. And that concludes my report on the PARS.
any questions on that? All right, thank you very much. Let's see, 6F is in Frank, fiscal year 26-27, proposed operating capital improvement program budget. EJ.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As I introduce this item, I would like to provide just a few comments before I hand it off to our Chief Financial Officer. This is the culmination of our fiscal year 2026-2027 proposed operating capital improvement program budget. As you'll recall, over the past couple of months, we've now held 3 special board meetings, as well as our regular ongoing finance and administrative committees, talking a little bit about where we are financially and proposing what we think is a very modest budget for the next fiscal year. It's important to note that since we last met after board workshop number 3, we did hold our annual customer agency workshop where we walked through the budget. We received some good feedback from the Water Replenishment District at that meeting. I've also had now a one-on-one with one of our investor-owned utilities that was not able to attend the budget workshop, trying to make sure that every one of our customer agencies is up to speed as far as what we're looking at potentially for a budget and rates, and walk them through and answer any questions. There's one retail agency that I'm seeking to get a one-on-one with that I have not met with, but I hope to have that meeting in the next few days or shortly. What we're hoping to do today is present that budget as an information counter item. Based off of the feedback that we received last year, our goal was to put the board in the best position possible to potentially adopt a budget and its rates in the month of May, which would allow for 30 days notice for not only our retail customer agencies, but also our recycled water customers, so that they can take the information and plan accordingly, as those rates will automatically take effect on July 1. Again, the feedback that I've received has been mostly positive, and I would just simply say that the cutting to kind of the request or the recommendation of staff is that on the reliability service charge, we consider a 3% increase while holding our recycled water irrigation rates flat based off of what their current rate is this year for the next fiscal year. And again, I think all of the feedback that I've received from our retail agencies when it comes to both of those two factors have been extremely positive. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Wendy O'Kelly for the presentation. And if you have any questions as we move through this presentation, please feel free to stop us and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you, EJ. So I'm going to begin with the workshop schedule, as EJ just mentioned, on page 553. So as EJ mentioned, the timeline and what we've already done, I just want to acknowledge also the process that brought us here to today's committee. The fiscal year 2026-27 budget has been presented and vetted over the course of 3 public workshops. And after each one of these workshops, staff has deliberately and carefully refined the numbers. And you'll see those in the later slides, in some of them are designated with red squares around them. But what you'll see today is that final result of a thorough budget process and bringing it to the board or for the committee's consideration and information. In the next slide for the agenda for today, I will walk you through the proposal for this 26-27 budget. Each agenda item here in each section builds on the last, and I'm hoping to tie them together with a clear recommendation or understanding of how we arrived at the 3% RSC proposal. I would like to also say the budget before you is fiscally responsible. It does fund operations, it protects our infrastructure, and it honors all of those debt obligations that we have made. All of this is supported by non-rate revenues, and then also, as EJ mentioned, a modest 3% reliability service charge. There's also recycled water revenues, and then again, as mentioned, the irrigation rates, we are intending on holding, or we are proposing holding those at the current rates. And in the next slide, these are the proposed budget expenditures for fiscal year 2026-27. And basically, I want to just kind of outline the procedure that was taken for this current year, 25-26. When I first came in to West Basin, I did meet with the different department managers. We went over their budget line item detailed. I was able to look at not only where we are proposing to spend money, but where we have spent money for the past 5 years. And then give myself just a better idea of, are we presenting to the board, to the public, to our ratepayers, a budget that truly reflects the district's spending? And with this year and with that knowledge, it made that by doing that analysis, it made it really easy to make some recommendations, some different cuts in different areas, and just understanding what the bandwidth of the district is as far as work that can be done in this coming fiscal year. So when you look at the expenditures, and we explained this before, the increase of 3.6 million is reflected of certain things like a 1.4 million for the board elections that are coming up. And then there are some other significant costs like legal fees that are incorporated in this budget, and then nominal costs throughout the other operating areas. But then there also are cuts as well. And one area that I will highlight is we have had discussions about commercial paper and the utilization of commercial paper. And I would say that I don't think the program is necessary to go forward at this time. So there is, as highlighted in this presentation, a reduction of 100,000 in the finance and contracts budget. And that is for those fees that are associated with just keeping the commercial program in place, even though we are not actually even proposing in this particular budget to have a new debt. So there is, staff is looking to propose that is being removed out of the budget. And then in the next slide is our standby and our debt obligation. And so a little bit different than maybe you saw in the earlier presentation today when we were talking about the Q3 debt report, you will see the debt obligation has been updated for 26-27 fiscal year to reflect all outstanding loans that are up to date. And a good thing, and I'm pleased to report, is that every obligation that West Basin does have, we are able to fully fund that debt obligation within this proposed budget. And so are a few points here to mention. First, that again, no new debt is being proposed in this budget. I don't know if Director right now. And all capital spending is funded through existing revenues and reserves, and I'll go into the specifics of that in a little bit. And then secondly, we've mentioned it, and I know the board is already aware of the standby revenue that is near term, and that has been that stable and reliable revenue source for us. So that's something that I just want to say is it's planned. We all know that the standby revenue is going away, but we're making strides in our reducing expenditures, being more responsible with how we plan CIP programs, how we plan just different things throughout the fiscal year, knowing that those standby revenues are going to be dropping off. But I would like to point out that if you look at the year 2020 straight across that chart, the standby revenue does drop off. And then in 2031, the debt obligation also does decrease. The net difference between the two results in a reduction in revenue of about 4.2 million. So if we look at the standby dropping off and the reduction and in the obligations, the real number here is about 4.2 million. And that's considering everything is equal, nothing changes, and those are the main factors. So in the next slide is our capital improvement projects. And this was presented in two workshops, a workshop right before customer agency. So our capital improvement program for 26-27 does propose 34 projects totaling $20.6 million. And the program is reflective of the district's commitment to long-term system reliability. And I would like to point out that in the past, going through some of the records, CIP forecast has been in these outer years at a higher amount than what we're presenting here today. And so that comes with staff conducting a review of the CIP program, scrubbing through and really narrowing down into those projects and proposing projects that are one in this presentation today that are either underway, which you could see in the latter two columns, or that are clearly necessary to maintain operational stability. And so what we're presenting to you again in this upcoming fiscal year is just a leaner, more targeted CIP proposal. And then the next slide is the culmination and combining all those expenses, operating expense, debt service payment, and the capital improvement. And the total proposed expenditures for this fiscal year coming is $112.6 million. This is the full picture of what it would cost to run West Basin Municipal Water District and keep it in good standing, not only operationally, but also financially. And the next slide. So how do we actually fund all of those expenditures? This is our proposed revenues, which are totaling $109.9 million. This is a 4.6 increase from the prior year's adopted budget, and it does outpace that expenditure growth that we were just discussing. You can see there's a diversified revenue stream here. We have recycled water, standby fixed charges, contracted commitments through our refineries, fixed payments, and then investment income, all contributing to helping balance the budget. In the next slide, we do give you the outline of the reliability service charge and the tier 1 rates. So as mentioned earlier, the RSC proposal for 26-27 is $331 an acre feet. That is a $10 acre feet over the current rate, which ultimately represents that 3% increase. So the $10 difference is what allows the district to maintain the healthy reserves that staff had mentioned today in the presentation with our investments. It also allows us to utilize PAYGO as our primary funding mechanism. And also, as I mentioned earlier, meet our debt service obligations and do it without any new borrowing. And then just to put it in context, at the bottom of each of these charts, you can see what the ratepayers will see in total. And in the first half of the year, July through December of 2026, that's going to be 2,099 acre feet. And beginning in the beginning of 2027, it would go down to 2,082 acre feet. And currently, our ratepayers are seeing $2,063 an acre foot.
And I want to make sure that everybody is clear on that. That's due in part to West Basin's effort, along with the Metropolitan Water District family, to renegotiate business model as far as how they charge for the treated water surcharge. There's going to be a shift of those costs onto those agencies that benefit from the system but don't actually receive the treated water. So it's important to note that it would go down after January 1.
And then the next slide is irrigation rates. And again, just piggybacking on what EJ already informed the committee, is with our full potable rate system and our irrigation rates, we are holding flat at 2,027 an acre foot for inside and 2,127 for outside service areas. And there is no, again, proposed increase. And in comparison, these rates are, when you look at the potable rates for 26 and 27, basically we continue to incentivize for using recycled water. And then finally, I would like to just kind of bring it all this together in one slide. And the next slide is our proposed budget summary with that 3% RSC. And so you can see the revenues, expenditures, all the expenses, and then our net revenues, which ends up being that PAYGO amount to fund our capital improvement program. And then the minimal amount, a modest amount that we would be drawing down from reserves. And sometimes drawing down from reserves does not help, but this is a modest and planned drawdown from reserves of $2.6 million. So I would say that why are we proposing, or how do we feel that this is the right number to propose for RSC? Off to the right, you could see that this proposal does fully fund the CIP program without any new debt. There is no debt that is needed to fund any of the capital improvement projects. And then also the debt coverage ratio of 1.83. That comfortably exceeds that required threshold from our creditors of 1.5 or better. This number does matter to our lenders, and it is important for our current credit standing as well. Also, does this help? One of the questions is, does it help improve or maintain strong credit ratings? It does protect our current credit rating, which, as you know, last year around this time, we did have the review from both of our credit agencies, and both of them we had received a slight downgrade in both from both Moody's and from S&P. So these things, as far as reserves and healthy debt coverage ratios, those are two main factors at play into the decision making from our credit agencies. And then finally, as I mentioned before, the minimum responsible increase of 3% does allow us to draw down that 2.6 from reserves, which is targeted, it's limited, and it's not a structural dependency, or, it doesn't create a structural impact to our budget. So with that, if the board has any questions, I would conclude the budget proposal for 26-27.
Any questions? Director Babach?
No question.
No question. Director Deer? Of course. Director Gray?
Director Gray, it's important to note that I believe you are muted. So if you wanted to speak, you're going to need to hit *6 to unmute.
In the interim, let me just ask a couple things, EJ and staff. So I know this is just an information item We have a board meeting coming up on Tuesday, right?
Correct. Actually, it's Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday?
Yes.
That's right. Okay. Holidays Monday and we did push it to Wednesday. Very good. Thank you for that reminder. Now, do we know if we're in a place to have our budget vote on Wednesday?
So that would be staff's recommendation is that we, unless we get some specific feedback from the committee today, that requires an additional workshop or an additional meeting to kind of sort things out, we're happy to do that. If the board or the committee today is satisfied with the work that's gone into it, knowing that a discussion on Wednesday could potentially lead to a future vote, what we would ask to do is move this to an action item for the full board's consideration. And again, if the board felt that at that time they're unable to come to a conclusion or there's not a satisfactory vote, we then have a full month to get this done. Our goal was to put this before the board with plenty of time. I'm very pleased with the work that's gone into it. I'm very pleased with the feedback that we've received from the board throughout those board workshops. So unless we receive some feedback today that requires additional work that we're unable to get to or get completed prior to Wednesday's board meeting, we would ask to just move this to an action item for discussion and consideration.
First of all, I'd like to go down that path to have this on the agenda for this month. And hopefully we could get a budget passed. Secondarily on this, and I know it says basically it's a 3% increase on the RSC, right?
Correct.
Readiness,
Reliability service charges.
readiness surcharge. Reliability. That's what you all are wanting your proposal.
Correct.
And then second, but built into all of this are the increases that come through metropolitan. You know, it's not here noted, but I'm saying in the budget, having to include what Metro has to publish. I just want to have that kind of delineation.
So yes, and I have just a slide number, but in the slide where I showed you the tier rates, there's two charges that are acre feet charged. It is presented here in the slide as well, and that starts in January of 2027. And then there's one charge that's a fixed charge, and so that would be when the reso is typed up, the resolution is typed up, that will be demonstrated in that resolution.
One other thing I wanted to see on this slide. Yeah, it was, or I'm sorry, let's go back to that page 562. Please. Because you got these little boxes on the right, which I think most of them hit metrics that we want to, of course, hit. I do see that they don't contribute to our standby reserves and they don't replenish our cash reserves. So this smaller increase does not add to some of those areas, obviously.
Right, correct. Chair Houston, it does take a drawdown a little bit from the cash reserve, and this is the projection for the budget. Unless we were ending the fiscal year, and this is why we do the mid-year budget result, and then also come to you at the end of the year in January with our financial statements. Because if there is a surplus in the overall budget year, then we can make the decision at that time, either mid-year or in the full budget cycle ended, what amount in that net favorable position do we want to move into the standby or back into cash reserve, knowing that we made a budget decision to draw down 2.6 million in this case.
And the reason I think that's important is because if we passed on no increase, we just kept it at a 0 increase, then we'd be even worse off.
Correct. That number goes up into the 3 million figure, right?
And then down the road, especially as we slowly lose a standby charge, at some point, we'd be looking at playing catch up in different ways at the agency.
Right. And so it's ideal to obviously take the minimal amount from the cash reserve, so there's not that much of an impact.
So again, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'm worth of this. How does it get placed on the agenda, EJ? Does it get placed on the agenda with this set of numbers,
So
basically?
what we would do is set up a specific action item, and it would be in the action counter, which would require a full presentation and discussion from the committee board. It wouldn't be something that would, because it's not an action item today, it would not be something that gets placed on consent or gets skipped over.
One last question for me is, I know you've spoken to most all the retailers, they've attended their own briefing or workshop. I know you mentioned you got to talk to someone still or something like that, EJ. But the feedback, roughly, what is the feedback you've been getting from retailers on all this?
The feedback is that 3% while keeping the irrigation rates flat, which is to the benefit of municipalities as well as our school districts, is I'll quote a comment that I heard earlier today. It seems like it's a win-win for everyone. We're trying to do something that we think is helps us get through this period without taking any additional debt. As Wendy pointed out, we're keeping a very close eye on that the standby charge revenue, that drop off, and then that slow but continuous drop off of our debt. And so taking on additional debt during this period is something that we're trying to avoid at all costs. And so you can see that taking the 2.6 out of reserves, we think is a prudent thing to do in order to get through this without any debt while moving forward with those two crucial projects, the solids handling as well as our DCS. I think that what you see as far as the CIP goes, and again, comments from our retailers, is that we're getting some of the work done for our refinery customers that they've been paying into. So I think that that's a very positive thing. Earlier this year, that we did an agreement with Marathon. So we got them settled. We're getting very close to Torrance Refinery. And I'm very pleased to tell you that we just had conversations with Chevron again. Their boiler feed agreement expires in 2027. And that is something that we are already focused in on because that's kind of the last of those 3 refinery agreements. So we're getting closer there. I think that this is a budget that is very tolerable as far as the 3%, and especially because we were successful with our negotiations with Metropolitan Water District and the Metropolitan Water District family to see that total cost go down, and to just highlight, the impressiveness of that is that, that they have, it's a 6.2% rate increase on the Met charge, which is the biggest aspect of our overall rate. And yet it's going to go down at the start of the new calendar year. Again, seeing that shift of those costs on the treated water surcharge to me is a significant assistance to agencies like West Basin that don't have a choice when it comes to treated or untreated water.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification, explanation with Jay. Amen.
Yeah, no questions, but just a comment. I agree on bringing this back on the board as an action item, just like what you said there, Director.
Very good. Anything, Director Deere?
No comments, sir.
He's the president, he's got to run this meeting. Let's just check. Director Gray, if you're there, any questions, comments? Let me just say a couple of things. So number one is, we don't need another workshop. I think we've done a lot of work this cycle. Thank you to staff, of course, as always, for all of that. I would like us hopefully to come to a decision next week so that we have a budget that's approved and moving forward, which does help everybody involved. An early start on it versus wait until June, so if at all possible, see what happens. And I also just want to say how much I appreciate all the work that's gone into this and even the last handful of years where everyone's taken it really, really seriously. How we do the budget process, how we've been projecting conservatively, but also how we've worked hard. And, you all worked really hard to not just meet the metrics, but really exceed the metrics. And I mean that, in the bottom of my heart, in all honesty, because, I think the agency has been doing a great job the last year or two to really look at things and watch the costs and just be cognizant of where we're at financially, all the changing things going on behind us. So I think this budget has come together very well, as far as I'm concerned. And, I can't say more how much, I'm very pleased with all of you working under the leadership of our general manager to get this to this point. It means a lot. So I'll ask if my colleagues have any other comments at this time, and we'll get ready to move on. Director
Yeah,
Black.
just final comments. I just want to say thank you to staff for, putting together the workshops, because without the workshops, we wouldn't understand, how to make the hard decisions. And I like how you put together the budget summary and everything, and you drill down to everything, every detail that made me want to understand, moving forward and how we're going to make a decision on our next board meeting. So I do agree with Director Houston. We don't need another workshop. I think we exhausted the workshops, because I think, because everything that staff has done, you've done it very detailed. And it makes me, as a board member, understand, knowing how the process works and stuff, and to make a sound decision when it comes in front of the board. And I do agree on, having this as an action item to come in front of the board. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Victor, anything?
Just another example of the good work our staff does. Very impressive. Thank you.
Let's see. I will, Director Gray chimes in, we'll certainly let her chime in, but, with that, we made our decision. Let's see, moving forward, item 7, closed session. We have no closed session. Item 8 are director comments for future agenda items. Oh, there she is, Director Gray. Go
Here I
ahead,
am.
Director Gray.
Hi, I was muted. Are we
Oh,
at
go
comments? Is it? Yes, if we're at comments. Want to thank the staff for their presentations today, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no future agenda items either. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Director Gray. Let's see, Director Fabai, any final,
So final comment.
Director B? Okay. I will just reiterate what I've already said, thank you, staff. Done a lot of work to get us to this point. Really appreciate it. I love how we've been really watching the numbers. And, we've also been hitting some key metrics. We're selling more like wastewater. That's a good thing. And that's a huge team effort, I know. Yourselves and working with contractors as well. So I'm looking forward to continued works. Definitely want you all to grind the ball. Really do appreciate it. And with that, let's see, our next meeting, do I have it on here? I think I do. The next page. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 16th, 2026. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.